course, it's been raining every day this week.
Right.
So it's been perfect weather to do some binge watching. And our first guest, film critic Dale Pollak, he always makes finding what to watch easier with his weekly reviews.
Absolutely. And here he is now, our friend to the show. Good morning, Dale. Good to see you on this Friday.
Good morning, Jacqueline, Audrey, and Christina.
Okay, we have to start off with The Flash. It's a movie that's in theaters, and the DC fans are not always Marvel fans. I'm a Marvel fan, so I should say the opposite. The Marvel fans are not DC fans. Is this something that maybe we'd be interested in going to the theater to watch?
Yes, I think if you're a DC Universe fan, this is a good entry. You know, this kind of rivalry between the two franchises was never really intentional. I remember growing up, there were Marvel comics and there were DC comics, and you kind of sampled both worlds. It's very competitive now, and unfortunately, this film embraces a word that I have come to dread called the multiverse, which means the story doesn't have to make any sense. You can blame every misunderstanding on the multiverse, and that's kind of what hangs over The Flash. This was previously a TV series 2 different times, and now it's a movie, and the controversy in part stems from its star, Ezra Miller, who has had some really questionable activities off the set. I will say he is terrific in this film. He makes the movie work. He's playing dual roles. He's playing 2 versions of the Flash, and he has a dialogue with himself the entire film, and that was extremely well done. And it's an entertaining and kind of action-packed movie. My complaint, as it seems to be always, is its length. It's 2 hours and 24 minutes, and that means it's a slog to sit through. And, you know, I just don't understand why these Marvel and DC Comics movies have to average between 2 and 3 hours. You know, there's just no need for it. The story can be far more concise.
That makes sense. What would you give this popcorn-wise? By the way, I did just watch Black Adam, which is a part of the DC universe. I watched it on HBO Max. So maybe I can kind of follow along with The Flash, but hopefully this got a decent score overall.
I gave it 3 popcorns because it's very well made, and Ezra Miller, for all of his off-screen problems, is a very good actor in this and makes the film work.
All right, that makes sense.
Nice. All right, so what was that popcorn rating?
It was 3.
3 popcorns.
Okay. Cool. All right, so next, what about Love and Death on Max?
Well, I was kind of shocked to see a series come about that is exactly the same stories as a series that was made last year. And that was a pretty good series. It had Melanie Lynskey and Jessica Biel. This time it has Elizabeth Olsen and Lily Rabe as the 2 women, and Jesse Plemons as the husband who has an affair. And I will just say this version is better. And that's mostly because of Elizabeth Olsen. You know, we used to make kind of fun of the Olsen twins and their little adventures in Disney World and all that. But Elizabeth has turned into a really good actor, and she holds the screen in this series in a really powerful way. I mean, I was very impressed by this. I felt it was gripping. You know what's going to happen. The plot is not in suspense. You know someone's going to end up dead, but it's the character work that really makes it interesting, and in this case, very watchable. So I'm giving this 4 popcorns because I couldn't wait to sample the next episode.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a great sign of success.
Dale, all 3 of us have seen this, and we agree with your 4 popcorn rating. This is such a wonderful show, and I mean it's serious, like the suspense. I mean it's very gut-wrenching and emotional, right? But I agree with you. Elizabeth Olsen was some of the best acting I've seen in a female in a long time.
I just adore Elizabeth Olsen, and she was perfect for this role because she's so innocent looking, and then, you know, with this dark side, maybe.
It was the way she really captured the accent, the mannerisms. I didn't even know there was another series before this, Dale, that had covered the series before, I mean, the story before, but I can't imagine that I would be able to go back to it after seeing this version.
I know, I think it would be difficult because this is the better version. And why would you go back to sample something that's not as good? But I'm waiting. Maybe there'll be a 3rd version. Who knows?
Just keep doing it.
Yeah, that was really good. I agree, though. 4 popcorns out of the gate right away. Tell us about Shiny Happy People, the Duggar family secrets. What is this all about? Obviously, like their life, right? Is it a true
Right, it's their life,
Yeah.
and we remember. I never actually watched the series 19 and Counting, which is their 19 natural children from their marriage, and then the scandals begin to emerge, and mostly they concern the eldest son, Josh, who was accused of molesting his siblings, and then also molesting other young women. And so that scandal kind of brought down the series and the family, and that's what this series is about. And it's interesting in the sense that one of the daughters has turned on the family and is willing to be quite candid. Her and her husband are the main interview subjects. But there's a lot of running around in the series that I didn't really understand. And then it lacks a very central thing. You never hear from the parents. They wouldn't cooperate with the series. So the whole idea of the family and its origins with these two parents who both became famous. The father ended up getting elected to the Montana state legislature. I mean, this series changed everybody's life, but ultimately not for the better, because as the bad news began to leak out, the family tried to put a lid on it, and that made everyone look guilty. And the whole thing kind of ends in disgrace and ignominy. So it's kind of a bummer of a series in a way, because you see the unraveling of this family, and some people may enjoy that because they were so sort of self-righteous when they first started talking about all their children. And then we find out that there was some things going on behind the curtain that we weren't aware of, and that the family was aware of. So it ends up with a kind of sordid, leaves you with a sordid taste in your mouth. And it's compelling viewing because you're watching the family, in effect, disintegrate before your eyes. But I'm not sure that's really a very positive message. And I gave this 3 popcorns because it's well done, but it lacks the essential thing of the parents either acknowledging the mistakes they made or insisting that they did nothing wrong. You never hear their point of view. And I think that's a big failing when the entire series is about their family.
Well, 3 out of 4 popcorns. I'd say when Dale gives a 3, I would still watch it.
I watched one episode of this. I definitely had the same feeling.
Really?
That I couldn't watch the second one. It just sort of lost me a little bit. It just didn't feel like it was on one central. I feel like we were going in too many different directions, but it was definitely interesting.
I think a lot of the secrets have come out too on social media, and I've seen them already. So I feel like a lot of the series has been spoiled before I've gotten to it.
Right. Yeah. It's only 4 episodes, so it's not an enormous investment of time. And if you're into these kind of stories, it probably works for you. But for me, it was just a little too late.
I was wondering how many episodes. Okay. Dale, always great to see you. As always, have a great weekend. Let's give everyone at home a reminder of those 3 titles this morning that Dale reviewed. First up, The Flash in movie theaters, Love and Death on Max, and Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets on Prime Video.